I'm Tina Fordham, and you're watching The Navigator. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what links the signing of the Middle East peace deal, the trajectory for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the outlook for US-China trade tensions. You guessed it, power. Specifically, geopolitical power, which is being wielded more assertively than we've seen in some time. A common misperception is that geopolitics is a synonym for news flow, but in reality, geopolitics is what countries do to wield power beyond their borders for the purpose of influencing outcomes. The question now is this: are we entering an era of new rules or no rules? A no-rules world risks a return to the unpredictability of might makes right, or more colloquially, who is perceived to be holding the cards. One element of the global ecosystem that business leaders haven't had to think much about for the last 50 years has been great power competition and the use of hard power, usually thought of as military force. In fact, there was a dip in the number of conflicts between the 1990s and the 2010s, a period that is often referred to as the Pax Americana. And during this era, concepts like soft power, meaning culture and values, or so-called smart power, defined as combining hard and soft power, gained in popularity. But these might turn out to have been luxury beliefs that were only possible in an environment of settled borders and internationally respected rules of the game. Recent developments have highlighted greater willingness to use hard power, not only by traditional superpowers, but also by rising and middle powers. And this is because competition and opportunism have increased. Historically, 85% of wars involve territorial disputes, and we've seen a doubling in cross-border wars since 2010, a key feature in our Geopolitics Supercycle thesis. This is a factor to watch as companies revisit their supply chains and other dependencies. With that in mind, one of the most frequent questions we're asked inside boardrooms is when the current hot wars in the world will end. On this front, there's been a welcome breakthrough in the Middle East, with a peace agreement signed between Israel and Hamas after 2 years of hostilities, raising hopes of a new era. The White House has outlined a 20-point peace plan. Upon reaching phase 2, the Trump administration has suggested that the Abraham Accords could be expanded with other economic incentives to follow. A sustained peace could unlock a new era of cooperation and economic expansion in the region. Among the key factors to watch will be which countries agree to take part in the Gaza Stabilization Force and the future governance structure of Gaza, with a board of peace led by President Trump himself expected to take charge. Turning now to Europe, the direction of travel in the Russia-Ukraine conflict suggests that after 3.5 years, we're not moving toward a swift resolution. Russia-NATO frictions have increased in the past 2 months, as have gray zone attacks in the EU and UK. Among the implications for investors is that European governments are getting serious about strengthening defense capacity, a shift that reinforces one of this year's key investment themes. As winter approaches, the lack of diplomatic progress suggests that the war will continue into 2026. The announcement of another Trump-Putin bilateral summit to take place in Hungary in the coming weeks is a signal that Washington thinks that diplomacy is still possible. Now to this month's Geopolitics Navigator Watchlist. The U.S. government shutdown rumbles on, though the market impact is limited, in contrast to U.S.-China trade tensions, which have reignited. Will there be a climb down or a U.S.-China summit later this month? We think Beijing is playing a long game and is negotiating as if China holds the cards. Finally, our signpost for the month ahead. We'll be watching the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's tariff powers, a decision with significant implications for global trade. And in the European Union, discussions continue on redirecting frozen Russian assets to Ukraine, while G7 finance ministers are set to discuss sanctions on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank Summit. I'll close with the words of Louis Pasteur: "Fortune favors the brave, but chance favors the prepared mind." Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter.